Hey everybody, I am live. I'm hoping. Let me know if I'm in the right group, Spruce Society. And I'm gonna see on. Is anybody on? Say hi or give me a wave if you are. All right, so I'm happy to be here. My name is Kamay Smith. I am a platinum with Young Living, and I've been with Young Living for almost 11 years now. I was invited to come share about reflecting and resetting for the new year, and also vision casting. I did this same exercise in Richard Bliss Brooks' course, and if you know Richard Bliss Brooke, he is well known in Young Living, and I am very honored to work with him. And so as I was working with him and his students, we were looking at, well, what can we do to kind of help set the tone for the new year? And one thing that we wanted to do was to reflect and reset. And I want to tell you that you don't have to be, you don't have to wait till January 1st of 2026 to do your reflect and reset. You don't have to wait till the beginning of the year. You can actually reflect and reset every day, every week, every month. It's up to you. So I'm going to just give you some prompts and some questions, and you get to choose the areas that you want to work on. The other thing I want to kind of help you with is how can you use this exercise and lay the vision for your team. It is so powerful when a team comes together and has the same vision. They're on the same page. And so this could be a tool that you as a brand partner can bring to your team. One thing that when we are trying to move ahead, if we don't look backwards and kind of reflect on what has happened, we don't really know how to move forward, right? We kind of stay in the same spot. So because we want to move forward, we have to reflect and reset a little bit. But we're not going to stay in the what's behind us in 2024, 2023. We're not going to stay back there. We're going to move forward to 2025, 2026. But we need to know what's come behind us as well. So we're going to take a moment, take a deep breath. This is going to be your time. There will be some time for you to journal and reflect. And then you can always come back and look at the questions. You will not finish the exercise in this call because you get to choose the categories that you want to work on. Some of you might only choose 2 categories. Some of you might say, well, I have 5 or 6 areas in my life that I want to work on. So it'll be different for everybody. But take this moment, just breathe, get ready. What you need to do is grab some paper and pen. Okay, so make sure you have a blank piece of paper and a pen. I guess you could do it digitally, but I am probably not the best person to show you how to do that. I'm a pen and paper person, okay? I want you to know that what has happened in the past and the stories and the events that have happened have brought you to this time right now. So there's going to be no judgment. There is going to be no regret. This is not the time for that. But I want you to sit right here and say, what has happened to me in the past has brought me here, so that you start this exercise in a good and ready position to move forward. Are we good? I can't see any of the comments if there's any, but if you're waving or anything, hi. Okay, so this time we will be reflecting, looking for clarity and action, and that all comes from within you, okay? First thing we want to know before we start is success doesn't come from big gestures or, I'm going to have a big event and that's going to take care of everything. No, it actually starts with the small, daily, consistent choices that you make or you don't make. And so hopefully this reset and reflection is going to help you figure out those small, daily, consistent steps that you will actually love to do, that you know you want to do, and that will bring you towards success, all right? The second thing is that stories that are in your mind are actually just stories. So, and because they're just stories, we can change them. Many times we think that what is true, that story is true, it's actually just a repeated thing over and over until it becomes truth to you. Perhaps you made up a decision about something. Something happened to you and you said, well, this must be the truth then. This means this about me. But you know what? Maybe you made that decision as a young child. Maybe you made that decision as a immature teenager and it's just come with you, you know, in life. How many times have we said, oh, I can't write down lists. I can't follow lists because I'm not a list follower. Well, maybe back, you know, when you were a child, somebody told you something that said, oh, you know, your writing doesn't look good. So that list that you're writing doesn't mean anything. And then as a child, you internalize that and said, well, then lists are not for me. So those things are just stories. And I know it might feel like truth for you, but that's all it is a story. And the amazing, amazing thing about that is that we get to write and change our own story. And hopefully, again, this reset and reflect will help you see the areas that you might have made decisions or made stories up, and you might think, well, what if I want to change that story? Can I do it today? And I'm hopeful that that will happen for you. Okay, again, no judgment. So let's try and work this exercise with honesty, reflection, internal reflection. Nobody's going to see this list. So if you really want to move forward, you really truly want to be aware and honest with yourself. Okay, so again, with your blank piece of paper, let's start with just a few prompts, and then I'm going to help you break it down into some categories, okay? So we always like to start with celebrating. So let's start with looking at what you did well in 2024. I want you to feel how maybe you might be struggling. You might be saying, oh, what are the things I did well? Whereas if you think, what did I do wrong? Man, all of it comes so easy, doesn't it? What did I do wrong? Well, all the stories come, but we forget to celebrate the little things. So let's remember right now and put it down on paper. What's one thing you did well? What's one thing you committed to, you followed through, and now it's time to celebrate? Okay, so let's take a couple minutes to do that. What's one thing you committed to, that you followed through, and that you want to celebrate? Just write that down. I didn't have somebody to help me type the prompts out in the chat, but if anybody can do that, please go ahead and do that. So what's one thing that you did, followed through, and you want to celebrate now? All right. Are we good? Next question. Next prompt. So I just asked you to do just the one thing. So here's where I want you to break it down into categories. I want you to look at things that you deal with daily. So is it your home, your health, your finances, your family, your friendships? Those are just 5 areas. I want you to take your piece of paper, right, and write them down here. So like maybe say family, and then leave a little bit of space, friends, leave a little bit of space, finances, and then on the next page, because we're going to journal the same questions or the same prompts under each category. You're not going to have time to do it for all of the categories, but I will give you the prompts and then you can go back and follow that, okay? So I just asked you for the one thing that you did well, but now I want you to break it down into the categories. So choose, again, the ones I've chosen are your health, your friendships, finances, your family. Okay? So now that you have those categories, the second prompt is, let's flip the coin and look at what didn't go as planned. right? We celebrated the one thing. What's one thing that did not go as planned? Now you can choose any of the categories. Perhaps you said, I wanted to spend extra time with my family and be really intentional and watching movies with them at least once a week, going out for tea dates at least once a month. Get really specific. Don't just say spend time with family. If your thought was last year you wanted to, have 12 dates with your spouse per year, write that down and then see how many dates you went on. Be really, really specific, okay? So write down the one thing choose a category that did not go as planned. What was the inconsistency that kept propping up? What derailed you from keeping to that promise that you made to yourself or to that goal? Because there usually is some sort of a inconsistency or a doubt or a something that you made priority over your goal. And this is why it's important to write it down, because once you have it down, you can then plan for future obstacles. You can say, if I planned last year to have 12 monthly dates with my spouse, but I only ended up going on 6 monthly dates, ask yourself, why did you miss out on all 6? Sometimes it's life, but sometimes it's you were too tired. Sometimes it is you didn't feel like it. Sometimes it's you were fighting, whatever it was. But guess what? Now that you know that those kind of things can prop up, you can prepare in advance for 2025 and say, these are the things that derailed me from having 12 dates with my spouse last year. So I'm going to prepare in advance this year so that it's not going to derail me from that. Okay. What story and what belief kind of crept in? Maybe you might say, I don't feel and look my best. So my spouse might think I'm, I don't look that great, so why bother going out? Or I don't have clothes that fit, so why bother going out? Those are all just stories. And I'm sharing that because those are stories I have. I'm not super happy with the body I have right now, and I have those thoughts. Like, it's such a pain to find clothes that, will fit to where we're going, so it's easier not to go. You know what I mean? It's all silly stories. But we let those stories sit in our head, and before we know it, you guys, it becomes truth. So when we get it down and we look at, oh my gosh, I let that keep me from going out and having a good time with my spouse. Well, now I'm very aware of it, and then I get ahead of that story when it pops in my head, and then I can change the story and then actually go out and have a great time with my spouse. I had actually a huge breakdown in November, December, and this reflect and reset really helped me reset my whole mindset. And a lot of my friends, some of you who are in Spruce Society here, will tell you it has completely changed my whole demeanor. They even tell me, Kamei, you look different. It's because I feel different. I'm so aware of what I allowed to derail. And now that I did the reflect and reset, I saw the stories I made up for myself, and I am getting ahead of those stories, and you can do the same. Okay, so now that you've done the stories that have held you back, what didn't go as planned, that's okay. No judgment, right? You've got it down on paper. Now, I want you to think of that story, that, the thing that got derailed. I want you to think of it. What made you think that way to derail yourself? And we call that in Richard Brooks' environment, we call that a red light story. So I want you to think of the the green light, red light, like the stop lights. There's green, yellow, and red. And guess what? When we are driving, we are not in charge of those lights. We have to stop and slow down and go according to those lights. But in our own lives, we are in charge of those lights. We get to say in our minds, yes, this is a green light story. I like this story, I'm going to go with it. This is a caution story, and this is a no way story. I'm not going, or this is a stop story. But you get to change that. If it's not serving you, if a red light story is stopping you from sharing with a friend about Young Living, you can change that into a green light story. And what I mean by that is, you might say, well, I'm not having classes because people don't show up. That becomes a red light story. But you know what? that stops us then from inviting people, and then it becomes a self-fulfilling prophecy, and so it's constant red lights all the time. And then we say, why aren't people coming, and why aren't people, I can't reach people? Well, it's because you might have stopped inviting people. So we can use that red light story, like people are not coming. What if we change that into a green light story? There might be many ways to do that. Maybe you don't have to host the class. Maybe you can go to another class that somebody else is hosting, and you can invite somebody to that. So it's like little baby steps. So it goes from a red light completely to no one is coming to classes, so you sit at home and you watch TV and your business doesn't grow. Instead of doing that, you can change that to say, well, somebody down the street is having a class. I'm going to go to that. And maybe next time I'm going to bring somebody to that as well. So you change those stories and stop. Like, if you don't change it, nothing's going to change. You know what I mean? Like, if you've had in your mind that nobody comes to classes, so you don't host a class, and then you end up not going to any classes, nothing's going to change in your business. In fact, the only way it'll change is it'll go down. So I want to give you the vision of, if that is your story, that nobody's going to classes or nobody's coming to your classes and therefore you're not hosting it, attend somebody else's classes. That's just a little idea, a little step. Okay? All right, so let's practice a green light story, because we're all about positive energy here. Let's think about December 2025. Let's think, the year. I mean, if you want to say, let's think about January 2026. We're 1 year ahead. I want you to think of all that could happen between now and then. I want you to think as if you're already 1 year ahead, and write down all the things that has fulfilled you, that has happened, that has turned out in your favor, that has built your team. This is the time to really dream. I want you to put it down on that same piece of paper. Okay? So the prompt is, imagine it is December 2025 or January 2026. Looking back on your year that was deeply fulfilling, what green light stories did you tell yourself to create that year? What daily actions did you craft and execute? Remember, we said success does not come from big gestures. It actually comes from small little touch points, daily touch points. So I want you to practice green light stories, the story that make you say, yes, I'm going to do this. The stories that say, yes, I believe I can do this. Yes, I think this will work, right? So again, because this is a year ahead, I want you to think, wow, if this past year has been so amazing. I've signed up 20 brand partners. Get specific, not just I've signed up brand partners. Get specific with that number. I've held one class a month, which is 12 classes a year. I've gone on 12 dates with my spouse. I've taken my kids to out for tea or coffee or a play date at least once a month. Like, write it down. Write the stuff that fills you up. Because that can then, you can bring that to make that your goal or your vision or your actions. Because if you don't, you're just playing it by ear. And we all know what happens with plans that are by ear or not written down. They possibly don't happen. All right? So I'm going to give you a few minutes to look back on your year. Pretending you're already 1 year ahead. Look back on 2025. Write it down the way that you want it to happen. It is deeply fulfilling. It is enriching. You have fun with it. And then when you think, what green light stories did you give yourself permission to write, to make those things happen? Thank you, Yvonne. I see that you're typing it all in. I appreciate it. Okay, 30 more seconds, and then we've got another fun thing for you to do. Okay, so this is the next prompt, is we are going to talk about your gifts and putting them into action. So the prompt is, what are your gifts? And again, this is no judgment, no regret zone. And I don't want you to be thinking, what do people think my gifts are? Because that's a red light story. Your green light story is what you feel inside. What are your gifts? So that's the first prompt. What are your gifts? Who needs your gifts? Who can you help with your gifts? And then what part of your life needs those gifts? So in those categories that you've given yourself, home, family, finances, etc., I want you to look in those categories, and you don't have to do it all right now. I want you to look at what your gifts are and how it can impact each of those categories. I want you to look at who in those categories needs your gifts. Maybe they have said it to you. Maybe you just know. Who can you help with your gifts within those categories? Okay? So if you know your gifts, put them in the chat. We would love to hear that. Okay, so moving on to vision. Now that we've looked at kind of like the past, we're moving on to the vision to move forward. Again, talking about the gap to success is all the little single daily actions. You're leaving like little, like making little steps. You know, there's this gap, and you're building a bridge over, but it's impossible to build that bridge, but you can build little steps to cross that gap. And those are the small daily actions, okay? So first thing is, what can you remove in order to make space for what will serve you, for growth, for connection, for fun, for enjoyment? What are the things that keep you from that? Could it be tech? Could it be scrolling for hours and hours? Could it be complaining? Could it be reading too many chat groups and things like that that just draw you into the drama, right? Whereas you have your family and your friends, your business here that want your time and your intention and your focus, but you're caught over here. So what are some things that you can remove? And this might be painful. I get that, but I'm telling you, it's so worth it. I actually I barely looked at my phone this weekend, and it was one of the best moves I've made for a long, long time, because I've been so stuck to my phone for the past year that even 2 days of not hardly going on my phone was amazing. All right, so what can you remove? First of all, texts, apps, habits, even friends. You know, some people draw your energy, take your energy away. Maybe sometimes it's good to step back a little bit so that you can focus on areas that need your help in growth. So that's the first thing, is what can I remove? The second question is, what have I procrastinated in 2024? Again, looking at your categories, again, being very honest and being very open. What have you procrastinated on? What have you rushed through in 2024? And then maybe in 2025, you can be a little bit, give it a bit more time and attention. Okay? Now that you've given yourself some ideas of what you can remove from your life, I want you to think, what can you replace, or what can you put in there now that you're not scrolling Instagram or Twitter or whatever for an hour a day? What can you replace with that time that makes you excited, that makes you glow, that makes you just be in alignment with yourself and be so happy? What are you going to replace in that time? So I want you to choose one category and say, I'm going to remove this particular thing, and it's going to give me 15 minutes. What are you going to replace that with that will give you some joy? Write that down, highlight it, put big stars on it so you get yourself excited about, and then you want to figure out a way to make that happen. So if it's 15 minutes that you're not going to be looking at Instagram in the morning, perhaps you can jump on a rebounder for 15 minutes. Highlight that, and then this is where I want you to think, what is this one thing going to do for me? So you're giving your brain and your subconscious and your mind reasons why it should do that. It already knows it, but you know what? That is so powerful when you write it down, because then you can look back on it. So for example, if you're going to not look at Instagram for 15 minutes in the morning, you're going to reclaim that time back. You're going to jump on a rebounder for 15 minutes. Ask ChatGPT, what's 15 minutes of rebounding going to do for my health? You might already know. It's going to move your lymphatic system. It's going to wake you up. It's going to help your core muscles. It's going to perhaps help you lose weight. I don't know, right? So, but at least you get your movement in. That's going to move you forward. And imagine if you do that every day for the next 11, 12 months versus scrolling Instagram for 15 minutes for the next 12 months. What would that look like? Isn't that amazing? We can make such big changes in such small steps, but they are huge. And sometimes we forget the magic of that. And I wanted to remind you of it. All right. So that one small daily action, whatever it is, you've written that down, right? I want you to ask yourself, when will you take that next step? When will you stop scrolling Instagram for 15 minutes in the morning and start jumping on the rebounder? When? Start there. Write it down. If you say, I'm going to start next Monday, I want to challenge you a little bit. Why wait till next Monday? What's all the stories in your head that make you think you have to wait till next Monday? If you say, well, I'm going to start today, great, give yourself a little star, right? So don't put it off, because procrastination is a big, big killer of goals. I want you to, again, look at the stories that you're saying to yourself. Oh, I can't start because, I don't have a rebounder. Fair. Go and buy one today. Go borrow one today, and you can start today. But don't put it off, right? Putting it off, it's like out of mind, and then you forget. Don't put it off. When will you take that step? How will you keep yourself on track? If you're saying, I'm going to be rebounding every day, how are you going to keep yourself on track? Because we all know everybody makes the resolution in December, and by January 15th, the gyms are empty again, right? January 1st to 15th, everybody's gung-ho, and then after that, it falls off. So put things in place that keep you on track. Remember earlier I said there'll be obstacles that come up. But if we know that the obstacles are there, then we can plan and help ourselves overcome those obstacles even before they start. So that when an obstacle pops up, we're like, oh yeah, this is going to happen. Okay? And we know how to deal with it. We're not surprised by it. So if it's 15 minutes in the morning, not to scroll Instagram, well, then you want to put your phone far, far away from your bed. And what you do is you jump up first thing, you buy an alarm clock. It wakes you up, not your phone, because then you're not reaching for it. You go grab your water, you drink your water, and then your rebounder is right there, and you go and jump. So even before you see your phone, you're already on the rebounder, and every time you walk past the rebounder to get to your phone, that's a choice. That's a story that you're telling yourself. So then every day you're forced to see the story and be like, oh, okay, today I'm making the decision. Will I do it again tomorrow? Or what can I do tomorrow? Okay, so write down when will you start, and how will you keep yourself on track for day 1, 2, 3, 20, 30, 40. And then the last prompt is, what skill or what training must you learn or hone? And this is more, I guess, more for like business, but even if it's for rebounding, what training must you learn? Well, I guess you have to train to not hurt yourself. Maybe you have to train on what are the best, a few exercises that you can do on it. So maybe you can watch some YouTubes ahead of time. Maybe you have to have your best friend, agree to do this with you, right? So you have to have some sort of training or skill, or maybe even accountability set into place. So write that down. So whether it's so that would be for health. If you chose business, what is a skill or a training I must commit to for my business for me to move on forward? All right, and you guys said lots and lots of training here, but the point is to put the training into action. And lastly, I know I'm running a bit long. Every big goal that you set, well, I guess every small goal is fueled by belief. If you don't believe that it will happen, it's less likely that you will do the thing to start. If you have a sense that it is probably going to happen, you might do it a little bit. But if you think, well, if somebody else has done what I want to do, then I believe that it's going to happen, right? Have you seen the reset? You've seen people lose all the inflammation and the weight. That to me, that says, okay, that's gonna happen. Then I have belief that the reset will happen. Another thing that will help you believe is using the oil belief, right? If you don't have this oil, you want to get this oil and put it on yourself all day long, because belief is what helps you get over all the doubt and the obstacles that creep up in your heads, all the red light stories, the doubtful stories, or the stories that make you stop. When you believe that it can happen, you will actually be able to overcome it. So for example, if you're trying to lose weight and you're walking 10,000 steps a day, the first 5,000, you're great. But then you find it hard to hit 6,000 steps, 7,000 steps. But you know that if you believe that if you walk 10,000 steps, it will impact your health for good, you will find some way to close the ring on, the trackers that you have, or to get those 10,000 steps. Belief is what fuels us forward and gets us past all of those obstacles, okay? When you are using this oil belief, you want to be thinking positive thoughts and the belief thoughts in your head, and then so it will anchor those beliefs into your mind, all right? So I would suggest that you revisit these beliefs maybe every day if you can, every week, every month, and say, I believe I can meet 10 people a month and introduce 1 or 2 of them to Young Living. I'm just picking numbers out of my head, right? But for me, those numbers have to be believable. I can't say, oh, I'm going to meet 100 people a day. I'm going to sign up 50 people a day, because I am not a high enroller. But I can believe that I can meet 10 new people and I can introduce at least 1 to 2. Those are very doable numbers in my mind. And when I say that to myself, I am breathing this in, I am believing it and anchoring it and centering it in my mind. All right, so whatever goal that you have in it, make sure that it is niched down to specifics. When you say, I will meet people and I will sign people up for Young Living, your brain doesn't really believe that, because you have not given it specific parameters. Our brain is so it's not too advanced. It needs specifics that it can kind of believe, and then it will work with you as a muscle to make it happen. All right, so small steps, small daily steps. Perhaps I can meet 10 people this month for the next year and get so good at it that it becomes second nature, that maybe next year I can meet 20 or 30 or 100 people. And my brain will be like, of course you can, because you've met 10 people a month for 12 months and had no problem. Sure, you can do the next step. But if I force my mind to say, I'm going to meet 100 people this month, my brain is going to be like, sit down, girl. It's not going to happen. You're not even meeting 10 people this month. So I'm starting in a believable point for me. Now, if you are a huge dreamer, you do you. I'm just sharing from my heart that I have to believe, and that I 100% use this oil to do that. And then also I write it down so I can look at it. Okay, so your 2025 has started. We are 1 month in. Okay, the stories that you write today are going to show up in December. So make sure you're writing the right kind of stories that propel you forward, grow you, and move you forward. Your sections that you've chosen, the categories, can be changed at any time. It doesn't have to be perfect. Just get them down and keep looking at it. Show up, stay consistent, and here's to your 2025. I hope this was so helpful to you. Thank you so much for joining me, and thank you for being with me. Again, the green light and red light stories I talk about are from Richard's book, Mach 2. You can find him anywhere on Facebook, but that's where I got them from. All right, have a great day, everybody. Take care. Bye.